What if the man who gave us the electric world was erased from its memory? Picture a cold, flickering London night in 1791. No streetlights, no humming machines, just the faint glow of candles and the clatter of horse-drawn carriages. Into this world, a boy was born, not to wealth or privilege, but to a blacksmith's struggling hearth. His name was Michael Faraday. He would ignite a spark that powers your phone, your home, your life. Yet his name barely lingers in our collective consciousness. Isn't it a cruel irony that the man who lit up humanity lies forgotten in history's shadows? Great discoveries often come from those the world overlooks, wrote James Clerk Maxwell, the mathematician who immortalized Faraday's vision. Born without a schoolroom or a silver spoon, Faraday unlocked the secrets of electromagnetic induction, birthing the electric motor, the generator, and the very age of electricity. But class prejudice, professional jealousy, and a world unprepared for his genius buried his legacy beneath the fame of others. Today, as we tap screens and charge devices, we owe it to Faraday to unearth his story, a tale of brilliance, betrayal, and unbreakable resolve. So join me today as we unravel the life of Michael Faraday, the unsung hero who turned a coil of wire into the pulse of the modern world. Before we begin, I need your support. Hit that like button and subscribe to Obscure Minds to help us keep shining a light on science's forgotten pioneers. Let's dive into a story that will shock you, move you, and inspire you to ask, what if? In the gritty streets of Southwark, London, 1791, Michael Faraday entered a world of hardship. His father, James, a blacksmith, hammered iron from dawn to dusk, yet the family's table often sat bare. His mother, Margaret, wove resilience into her son's soul, whispering that effort could defy destiny. Education was a privilege for the rich, so at 13, Faraday was sent to work as an apprentice in a bookbinding shop. For most, this was a life sentence to obscurity. For Faraday, it was a gateway to wonder. Each book he bound opened a universe. One day, he stumbled upon Conversations on Chemistry by Jane Marcet. Its pages sang of acids dissolving metals, gases igniting, and the invisible forces binding the world. Faraday didn't just read, he devoured, scribbling notes by candlelight in his cramped attic. With scavenged wires and wax, he built crude experiments, coaxing sparks from makeshift batteries. "The world is a puzzle," he wrote, "and I will solve it." Luck struck in 1812 when a customer handed him a ticket to hear Sir Humphry Davy, England's celebrated chemist, lecture at the Royal Institution. Faraday sat spellbound, his pencil racing across pages as Davy conjured electric arcs and chemical reactions. Inspired, he bound his notes into a pristine book and sent it to Davy with a daring plea, "Give me a chance to serve science." Davy, struck by the young man's passion, hesitated. There was no vacancy, but when his assistant was dismissed, Faraday was called. In 1813, at 22, he stepped into the Royal Institution, not as a scholar, but as a servant scrubbing glassware. Yet Faraday's hunger for knowledge was insatiable. While assisting Davy with electrochemical experiments, he absorbed every detail, how metals corroded, how currents flowed. He began tinkering on his own, asking questions no one else dared. In 1821, he achieved a monumental breakthrough, electromagnetic rotation. By suspending a wire in mercury near a magnet and passing a current, he made it spin, a dance of electricity and magnetism. This was no parlor trick. It was the world's first electric motor, the seed of every engine that powers our lives. Faraday's mind raced further. If electricity could create motion, could motion create electricity? For a decade, he toiled, testing coils, magnets, and wires in the institution's dim basement. In 1831, his persistence paid off. Electromagnetic induction, moving a magnet through a copper coil, he saw a flicker of current on his galvanometer. It was fleeting, but it was revolutionary. This discovery birthed the Dynamo, the generator that would electrify cities, factories, and homes. He didn't stop there. He invented the Faraday Cage, a metal shield that blocks electric fields, now safeguarding satellites, aircraft, and MRI machines from interference. Faraday's genius wasn't just in machines, it was in seeing the unseen. He envisioned lines of force, invisible threads weaving electric and magnetic fields through space. This radical idea, scoffed at by mathematicians, laid the groundwork for James Clerk Maxwell's equations, which unified electricity, magnetism, and light itself. Without a single university degree, Faraday rewrote the laws of nature, proving that curiosity, not pedigree, unlocks the universe's secrets. But brilliance came at a cost, and Faraday's story is as much a tragedy as a triumph. In the hallowed halls of the Royal Institution, he was an anomaly, a working-class boy among aristocratic scholars. The elite, with their Oxford degrees and noble titles, sneered at him. "A bookbinder's apprentice dares to call himself a scientist," they mocked. Their words stung, but Faraday pressed on, believing his work would speak louder than their prejudice. The deepest wound came from the man he admired most, Humphry Davy. Once his mentor, Davy had plucked Faraday from obscurity, but as the apprentice's star rose, envy poisoned their bond. Davy, a self-made man whose pride burned bright, couldn't bear being overshadowed. When Faraday unveiled electromagnetic rotation, whispers spread that he'd stolen ideas from Davy's earlier work. The accusation was baseless, but Davy's silence was deafening. In 1824, he blocked Faraday's election to the Royal Society, a betrayal that cut deeper than any critic's scorn. Faraday, ever stoic, wrote in his diary, "I serve truth, not men." The 1813 European tour with Davy was a crucible of humiliation. Faraday, thrilled at the prospect of visiting laboratories in Paris, Florence, and Rome, was instead reduced to a servant. Davy's wife, Jane, treated him with contempt, forcing him to polish boots, carry luggage, and endure insults like commoner and lackey. In Paris, as Davy debated with giants like Ampere, Faraday stood in the shadows, forbidden to speak. Yet even in this indignity, his spirit burned. By night, he sketched Volta's batteries and memorized chemical reactions, turning scorn into strength. Back in England, the scientific establishment remained cold. When Faraday announced electromagnetic induction in 1831, skeptics called it a curious effect, with no practical use. The Royal Society, gatekeepers of British science, dragged their feet, granting him fellowship only after years of undeniable proof. Public lectures became his refuge, where he captivated audiences with sparks and magnets. But behind the applause, he was alone. Colleagues took credit for his ideas. Journals buried his papers beneath those of proper scientists. The cruelest blow was not from men, but from time. Decades of inhaling toxic fumes in the lab, mercury, chlorine, and acids, eroded Faraday's health. By his late 40s, his memory, once a fortress, began to crumble. He'd stare at his notebooks, pages filled with his own meticulous handwriting, and feel a fog where clarity once reigned. "I held the universe in my hands," he confided to Sarah, his devoted wife, "but now it slips away." Sarah, his anchor through every storm, held him as he wept, but she couldn't halt the decay. By the 1850s, simple calculations eluded him. Experiments he'd once designed in hours took weeks. The man who saw invisible forces now struggled to see his own past. Faraday's nobility only deepened his tragedy. He refused to patent his inventions, believing science should serve humanity, not profit. He declined a knighthood, saying, "I am plain Michael Faraday, and that is enough." He turned down the Royal Society's presidency, uninterested in power. But this selflessness left him vulnerable. As Edison and Tesla rose to fame, building empires on his discoveries, Faraday faded. In 1867, he died quietly in his Hampton Court home, his mind a shadow of its former brilliance, his name barely a whisper in a world he'd transformed. Feel the weight of that moment. A man who gave us the electric age, who saw truths others couldn't, was left to wither, unrecognized, his genius dimmed by betrayal, prejudice, and a body that betrayed him too. It's a heartbreak that echoes through time, a reminder that even the brightest lights can be extinguished by a world too blind to see. Yet, from the ashes of tragedy rose a legacy that no prejudice could erase. Faraday's resilience was a force as powerful as the currents he tamed. Against the sneers of elites, he taught himself chemistry and physics, turning a bookbinder's bench into a laboratory. Against Davy's betrayal, he forged ahead, letting his discoveries silence his detractors. Against the fog of memory loss, he continued lecturing, inspiring generations with his Christmas lectures where he made science a wonder for all, from children to queens. His resolve was superhuman. In the face of humiliation, he wrote, "Let them scorn, I will find truth." When his health faltered, he adapted, sketching ideas before they slipped away, trusting Sarah to preserve his notes. When the world doubted his lines of force, he persisted, knowing nature would prove him right. And it did. James Clerk Maxwell, a young Scottish physicist, read Faraday's papers and saw what others missed. With mathematical precision, Maxwell translated Faraday's visions into 4 elegant equations, proving that electricity, magnetism, and light were one. When Maxwell calculated the speed of electromagnetic waves, it matched the speed of light, a revelation that shook physics. Faraday, too frail to fully grasp it, had been right all along. Look around you now. The hum of your refrigerator, the glow of your screen, the silent glide of an electric train, all pulse with Faraday's genius. His electromagnetic induction powers generators that light cities, motors that drive industry, and transformers that carry energy across continents. His Faraday Cage shields astronauts in space, protects hospitals' delicate machines, and guards planes from lightning's wrath. His ideas, once dismissed, are the bedrock of our world. But Faraday's true triumph is his spirit. He showed that a boy from the slums could outshine scholars, that curiosity could conquer class, that selflessness could outlast greed. He gave his discoveries freely, refusing wealth to ensure science served all. His Christmas lectures, still held today, inspire millions to ask, what if? He was no mere scientist, he was a beacon, proving that no barrier, poverty, betrayal, or a failing body can dim a determined soul. His legacy challenges us. What mysteries remain? Could Faraday's principles unlock wireless energy as Tesla dreamed? Could they power fusion reactors, mimicking the sun's heart? Every time you charge a device or hear a radio signal, Faraday whispers, "Keep questioning, keep dreaming." His life is a clarion call to rise above doubt, to chase truth with unrelenting passion, to leave the world brighter than you found it. Faraday didn't just change science, he changed what it means to be human. Michael Faraday, born in obscurity, lit a spark that set the world ablaze. From a bookbinder's apprentice, he became the architect of the electric age, gifting us motors, generators, and the Faraday Cage. He saw the universe's invisible threads and wove them into truths that endure. Yet his story is a sobering lesson. The past buried him under prejudice and neglect. The present thrives on his gifts. The future beckons us to carry his torch. Faraday's life screams that greatness needs no title, that resilience can shatter any chain, that a single question, what if, can reshape reality. What does Faraday mean to you? Could you, like him, defy the odds to chase a dream? Is there another forgotten genius whose story deserves light? Share your thoughts below and let's spark a conversation. If this story moved you, hit like, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to Obscure Minds for more tales of science's unsung heroes. Thank you for joining me in honoring a man whose light still guides us. Let's keep asking, what if?